Hi, everybody. It's Eamon here from the Pat Monk Presents podcast. And today we have a very special guest. We have Adam coming all the ways from York.ae. So welcome to the podcast. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for having me.
Great. And look, I was checking out your website a little bit more before I jumped on. I know that obviously you helped co-founded the company, but for those that aren't familiar with York and what you do, can you just give a quick overlay and share with our guests and our listeners what you do and how you help people and businesses?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I always like to joke that I started working at York.ae in kindergarten because that's when I met Kyle York for the first time. And then we met our other partner, Joe Raska, much later in life in Little League. So the three of us were on the same team. We enjoyed working together, but we were not good at baseball. So we said, we got to develop some other skills. So I actually started my career as a journalist, lived here in the US, lived in Beijing, lived in Italy. And then ultimately I reunited with Kyle and Joe at a company called Dyn, which did the domain name system. So we grew that company to about 100 million annual recurring revenue and then got acquired by Oracle. So we spent some time inside Oracle. And as we reflected on that growth journey at Dyn, we felt that a lot of the legacy institutions that we turned to for help, whether that was our vendors, whether that was our VC, whether that was our advisors, we felt like they were operating out of a model that was beneficial to them, but not necessarily to us as the operators. And so that was the genesis. We wanted to disrupt that. And so that was what led us to launching York.ae in 2019. So we help technology companies grow. We do that through two different ways. We have an investment side of the business where we invest in early stage, pre-seed, seed, B2B software companies. And then we have an advisory services side of the business where we help companies of all sizes, industries, verticals in kind of four key function areas: finance, product, marketing, and sales.
Wow. So great origin story. I like it. And definitely with what you're doing now, I mean, is there any specific industries that you find yourself mostly focused on, or, where is the growth happening at the moment?
Yeah, so we have a really a wide breadth of offering. We work with a lot of, early stage companies, but, as we're seeing right now, just in general, in sort of the tech startup ecosystem, there's this transitioning happening from growth at all cost to efficient profitability. And so as a result, I think the services that we offer tend to be very affordable and beneficial to companies of all sizes. And so we're seeing kind of growth really even in those sort of scale up phased companies as well too.
Okay. And with this, obviously focusing on, early stage companies, what different channels are you using to acquire and, build a brand, like bringing in new clients and customers?
Yeah, so we really want to, help companies of all stages. And so we're trying to have an offering from, self-serve all the way up to really, white glove hands-on services. And so we kind of attack that through two ways. One, we have the digital marketing channels. We really try to act like your typical B2B software company, like Pat Monk, having that content engine, putting out really good thought leadership, trying to build the community from a digital standpoint. But then we're also really beneficial from being an investor. We have a really strong network and ecosystem. And so then we're also trying to cultivate those channels as well too, through partnerships and relationships that we have with other co-investors, accelerators, incubators, et cetera, right? So really trying to create that sort of end-to-end customer journey, which is, as you mentioned in your opening, a challenge, right? With how noisy kind of the landscape is these days.
Exactly. And how important, when you're doing, connecting with all these different areas and industries and startups and, early stage companies, I mean, how important is your website in acquiring new customers or acquiring new partners?
I think like many companies, our website is in a constant state of evolution, right? I think in the first few years of the company, the website acted almost as the sort of leave behind marketing collateral that you might have in an event, right? We were a new entity. And so we needed the website to really sort of explain, hey, this is why we think of ourselves as the new type of McKinsey or the new type of Deloitte. Now that like there's been some brand awareness and we have some brand equity, we're trying to evolve the website more into that conversion engine, right? How do we bring people in that are looking for us? And then how do we provide them value and get them into that ecosystem and that community that we're talking about, continue to nurture them, and then hopefully have them, become a customer.
It's interesting you should say that, and definitely a conversion engine, and speaking of that, like moving forward with all the changes that are happening in tech and Web3 and everything that's coming down the road, I mean, how do you feel like about the cookieless future? And, are you prepared, or is it something that keeps you up at night, or is it something that you're excited about?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I think that like the feeling is from a marketer's perspective, there's just sort of constant change happening, right? In the tools of which we have to ply our trade. And that can seem overwhelming at times, but then when I think about it, at the end of the day, what is fundamental is like the messaging that we work with companies on. Like, what are we trying to say? And is that really strong? Are we taking in, like a lot of companies sort of take a product out approach to marketing or to company building in general, right? I had this problem, I tried to solve it, now I assume everybody else did. We really like to take a market in approach, which is like, let's take a look at the competitive landscape. Let's take a look at the trends. Let's take a look at our differentiators and what people actually want. And let's create compelling messages around that. And then let's take that message and then distribute it through the various channels that exist. Those various channels are going to constantly change because people constantly consume information at different places. But something that a lot of companies fall victim to is they let the tail wag the dog, and they let the channels be their marketing strategy. And now all of a sudden, they're creating 10 different messages to 10 different audiences. And how do you build any brand equity in that way, right? So what I like to think of is, how do I say one thing, cut it up through 10 different channels, the website, SEO, LinkedIn posts, events, all, paid advertisements, but make sure that they're saying the same thing so that if I'm hitting somebody from different directions, they're actually beginning to know who we are and not get confused by the different messages we're putting out.
Exactly, that they're congruent, that they, it's not saying one thing on one channel and a completely different message or value proposition on another. Okay, great. So like switching gears a little bit and just talking about you, Adam, maybe as a leader within business and within marketing, and what keeps you busy on a day-to-day basis at York? I mean, how do you keep I'm sure there's lots of things, but where's your main focus going at the moment?
Yeah, so I think like it's really interesting because as I mentioned in the opening, I ran corporate comms for the company Dine, right, which was adding 100 people every year, was scaling. It was really this like intense rocket ship, but I was in my cocoon of marketing, right? Here at York IE as the co-founder, the breadth of what I touch is the entire business, which is such just a different seat and a different mentality. So there's constantly challenges coming from every perspective, but I am like, the two things I'm focusing on is really like our advisory services. And, it's interesting for any company that has multiple sort of product lines, right? Like, as I mentioned, we have like the marketing service that we offer, but we also have the product development service. And essentially, a lot of times a company will come in for a point solution, right? I have a marketing problem, I need help. Well, how do we make sure that we solve that problem, but also have them know, well, we're also broader than that, and you have access to all of these other things, right? How do we make the whole greater than the sum of our parts, right? And so that's really through a client services org that we're building out to be proactive to the company, to think not just on how do we deliver value to them today, but how do we deliver value then tomorrow before they even know they need that value delivered, right? And then on the flip side, how do I not be the carpenter whose house is falling apart? And how do I think about the marketing and the storytelling for York IE itself as well, too, and continue to define and build our brand at the highest level while continuing to build sort of the sub brands around the different offerings, right? So just like every marketer out there, infinite number of challenges. And as marketers, we love just adding new things to our plate without ever taking anything off. So keep me very busy for sure.
Exactly. No, it definitely sounds super busy. And I love the analogy, like the carpenter with the house that's breaking down, or the mechanic that's driving the broken. You have to do so many things, spending so many different places, helping customers, helping
Right.
clients, but also, building your own marketing as well. So now that we're coming up towards the end of our interview, I'd love to jump into the rapid fire questions. So
Yeah,
if you're ready, are you ready? Let's jump
I'm
in.
ready. I'm strapped in. Let's do it.
Let's do it. So what was the last book you read, Adam?
Oh, so I just finished Shoe Dog, which is the memoir by Phil Knight, which was awesome.
About Nike, yes,
It
yes,
was
I've heard
awesome.
that. It's on my to-read list. So also, why is one, let's say, thing that you're doing at the moment that's a repetitive task that's taking up so much of your time, that if you had like a magic wand and you could automate it, what would that be?
Well, that's a good question. I would say probably like creating new statements of work. Right? A very good problem to have, that you're doing a lot of them, but you want them, you don't want them to be just templates, but so then it takes a lot of time to try to personalize them.
Okay, great. Yeah, great answer. So also, imagine you're going back, it's the first day or the first week, first month of York, and you were getting to start it all over again. What advice would you give yourself, or what would you do differently?
I would give myself the advice that I would say, you are capable of so much more than you think you are, right? Because like every time you reach a crisis or a challenge and you're like, this is it, I don't have any more to give, like I am beyond my capability. And then you just keep digging deeper and you realize, oh my goodness, I can handle so much more. I'm capable of more than I thought. I'm better than I thought I was. And I think if I had that confidence, if I knew who I would be today versus I was 3 years ago when I started it, I would be amazed by the growth.
I mean, I think everybody listening in, I mean, take that to heart.
Yes.
Everybody listening in, everybody, I think there's always another level,
Yes.
if you believe. So yeah, incredible. So I want to give you the last word, which means is, imagine everybody that's listening in to this
Yeah.
podcast or watching it on YouTube. I mean, if they just forgot everything that we just spoke about, all the nuggets, marketing information, and you just wanted to leave them with one thing to remember about York, what would that be?
I would say that, like, in the startup journey, no matter where you are, you can always use help.
Mhm.
And our team really wants to help companies. We want to be an extension of your team. We move at the spit pace of startups. And you know what I mean? I think like we're really about, the reason that I spend so much of my time with startups is that these are people chasing their dreams. And I think that is a super noble thing to try to help people do, achieve their dreams. And we would love to work with you guys on a variety of different things to help that become successful.
Fantastic, fantastic. So that is it. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on our podcast today. I'm sure our listeners will get so much value from this. So yeah, that is it. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Thanks again, Adam, for joining us. And I look forward to seeing everybody on the next episode of Pat Monk Presents. All the best and bye-bye.
Thank you for having me.